Good morning. Happy 4th of July. Violent revolution. That's what we're going to talk about this morning. That sounds wonderful. I hope everyone's having a wonderful day. We're having the 250th anniversary of our country's beginning here in America. It's quite a thing. I think our country's finally realizing that we're not special. God used us for a purpose, but it's a very important time that we're living in. So we're going to look at that. We're going to take a look real quick at Micah. I think it describes our time to realize that when we talk about revolution, in 1776 during the Revolutionary War, when they had the original revolution in this country, it wasn't people sitting on their couches in their living room. I mean, they actually got active and activated and caused it to happen. And we're in the spirit realm. We're taking over the kingdom. We're rejecting and throwing off the shackles and the bondage of futility. And it's going to take a violent upheaval in our spirits to do that, to make it happen. And that's all right, because that's what God is doing. I once I saw a bird land on a nest with all her little fledglings in there, the little birds. And she just started flapping her wings against the little birds. She was on the edge of the nest, flapping them right in front of him. I mean, she looked like she was going crazy. And she did that for a while, and I thought, what's going on here? But then I realized that, and she did it at least another time or two, and she was instilling them or awakening the instinct to fly. It's like she was coming down to the nest and telling them, why are you still here in the nest when you can fly? Why would you walk, or why would you sit when you can soar through the sky without a care? But it had to awaken in them. And that's what God's doing with us. He's awakening something in us that registers, that tells us that we've got so much more than the measly things we reach for to be content in this world. And he's really bringing it to a head, but it's a startling revelation, and it doesn't come easily. But let's look at Micah chapter 7, verse 1. Kind of describes a parallel of the time that we're in right now. Woe is me, for I am like the fruit pickers, like the grape gatherers. There's not a cluster of grapes to eat. It's not working. He's coming out for his daily thing, and there's nothing there to work with. Or a first ripe fig for which I crave. The godly person has perished from the land, and there is no upright person among men. All of them lie in wait for bloodshed. Each of them hunts the other with a net. Remember, Jesus said in these last times, because iniquity shall abound, the love of many will wax cold. We have to, I think, get it in our minds that we aren't just screwing it all up and, look at what we're doing. That's the thinking of the age. That's the futility, bondage, talking. We haven't screwed anything up. God has set us on a course that's going to run into a brick wall. And our hands are tied, the steering wheel is locked in position, and the gas pedal's got a brick on it, and there's not a damn thing we can do to stop it. So let it roll, baby. This is the futility, the end time that God's bringing us into. He said, when you see all these things, lift up your heads and rejoice, for the kingdom of God is coming, is nigh. It's a violence of thinking. Who would think such a thing? When they look out and they see all the destruction and everything, they just want to run and hide. And God said, no, man, look around. This is it. Remember what you're doing, what's happening here. Get a grip, or let it get a grip on you. Your purpose is being fulfilled now. The very fact that we are in this world holding faith in our hearts toward God, is a factor of judgment that brings light into this dark world and is thrashing the corruption. And that's what God's doing. He's, we're not to sit in a corner and bite our fingernails over all the corruption in the world. Rejoice. God's exposing it. It's always been there. It's been there in every one of us. There's no bad guys and good guys. It's all humanity is coming up for judgment. And what is the judgment? It's not because we've done all these awful things, but we're so bad. God made us bad. He made us do all these bad things. He subjected us to futility. What the hell are we supposed to do? But the judgment comes when he says, okay, I put you through this process, and now I'm bringing you out via my Son, Jesus Christ. So it's not good or bad. God did it. And now it's over. And he's saying, now come out of there. And if we say, no, I'm locked into this is where I live now. I don't want to leave it. And he says, that's the condemnation. Then you're going to suffer all the results of living and subjecting your own self to that. Because God's made a way for us to come free. And say, I'm such an awful person for not doing what he said. Jesus said you can't even come to God without him drawing you. Or I should say, no one can come to Jesus without the Father draws him. So we're damned if we do and we're damned if we don't. We're part of God's creation and part of his plan that he's bringing all this together. We're not good or bad. We're sons of God in the making. And when we can let go of all the trash and all the condemnations and the guilt and realize we're fulfilling a role. Jesus said, lo, I come in the volume of the book. It is written of me to do thy will. The sacrifices and offerings thou wouldest not, but behold, a body thou hast prepared for me. He doesn't want what you can do or can't do. He wants you. He's going to do all the rest through you. Really, believe me. You'll see. But right now we're looking at it, but it's a contrast, the way futility looks at the world and the way the kingdom, with the vision of God, sees what's going on in the world. All right. Verse 3, concerning evil, both hands do it well. The prince asked, also the judge, for a bribe. And a great man speaks the desires of his soul. So they weave it together. The best of them is like a briar, like a thorn. The most upright like a thorn hedge. The day when you post your watchman, your punishment will come. Then their confusion will occur. Doesn't that sound like now? Do not trust in a neighbor. Do not have confidence in a friend. From her who lies in your bosom, guard your lips. For son treats father contemptuously. Daughter rises up against her mother. Daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. A man's enemies are the men of his own household. You see, you can't. Jesus said he didn't commit himself to anyone, to any man, because he knew it was in man. And it's in all of us. It's resident. And we have to recognize that. I think as we come into this time, more and more we're going to see that guy opposite of us is not bad. He's just fulfilling a role that God gave him, and he's manifesting a futility that he's in bondage to. That's why Jesus didn't get mad at everybody. He saw what was going on in everyone. We're all under the same curse that we're coming out of. All right, let's keep this going. All right. So verse 7, but as for me, I will watch expectantly for the Lord. I will wait for the God of my salvation. My God will hear me. Do not rejoice over me, my enemy. Though I fall, I will rise. Though I dwell in darkness, the Lord is a light for me. I will bear the indignation of the Lord. because I've sinned against him, until he pleads my case and executes justice for me. I've been cursed with a body, and my whole being's been thrust into futility. Okay, what's my recourse? That you come to him and say, hey, plead my case. Get me out of this. Right? Come boldly before the throne of grace to obtain mercy in the time of need. This is the time of action. You know, God's not going to be pissed off if you ring his bell and say, hey, man. Verse 10, then my enemy will see in shame. Well, he just goes on and on. But then verse 13, and the earth will become desolate because of her inhabitants, on account of the fruit of their deeds. Shepherd your people with your scepter, the flock of your possession, which dwells by itself in the woodland, in the midst of the fruitful field. Lead them, and he goes on and on and on. But he talks about the difference, the contrast that is going to be in this time. You know, I can't help but get the feeling, I don't know, that, you know, America's seen such good times. I mean, I know life is hard in general, but I was thinking about it. I haven't had to go out and kill my own meat to survive lately or any time. I didn't have to fight someone to get to my home. I mean, I don't have to worry about someone coming in and arresting me. Probably I don't. But, you know, we live in such a bubble. We're so protected. I think it's important to be aware that when you're in a bubble, you're there for a reason, you know? And why did God keep the children of Israel in the land of Goshen in a bubble? It's because he was about to transform the most crazy, wonderful plan the earth has ever known. And they were on the brink of it. So, I mean, you know, it's just something to keep in mind that, you know, what did Paul say? Live in the world, but treat it as passing. It's not something you want to latch on to. You know, sleep with one eye open because I think there's a storm on the horizon. But let's look at this. Matthew 11, chapter 7. This, I mean, it's pretty wicked, violent, if you want to look at these pages beforehand. He's talking about the meaning of discipleship. This is in chapter 10, Matthew 10:34. Do not think that I came to bring peace on the earth. Did not come to bring peace, but a sword. He said, I'll set a man against his father, and a daughter against her mother, and a mother-in-law against her mother-in-law. Remember that? A daughter-in-law. And a man's enemies will be the enemies of his own household. That's where he came from. He who loves father and mother more than me is not worthy of me. And he who loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. And he who does not take his cross and follow me is not worthy of me. He who has found his life will lose it. He who has lost his life in his life for my sake will find it. But that's when he was sending them out to go and preach the disciples. So anyway, and then when Jesus had finished giving instructions to the 12, this is Matthew 11:1, he departed from there to teach and preach in their cities. Now when John the Baptist was in prison, he heard of Christ and sent word by disciples and said to him, are you the expected one? Or are we looking for somebody else? And Jesus said to them, go tell that son of a what you've seen and heard. The blind receive sight, and the lame walk. The lepers are cleansed, and the deaf hear. The dead are raised up, and the poor have the gospel preached to them. What the hell are you waiting for? He said, and blessed is he who does not take offense at me. Well, what a jab. Old cousin John over there. Hey, buddy. But see, that's the difference. And he went on, he says, as these men were going away, Jesus began to speak to the crowds about John. He said, would you go out to see a reed shaking in the wind? Go out to see a little Saturday afternoon entertainment? Remember, this is John the Baptist. But John the Baptist was from a former age, and he couldn't get into the kingdom. He was there to present it. He says, verse 8, but what did you go out to see? A man dressed in soft clothes? You know, sound like our evangelist preachers these days, who wear soft clothing. Those who wear soft clothing are in king's palaces. But what did you go out to see? Well, he keeps asking. A prophet? Yeah, I tell you, one who's more than a prophet. This is the one. Something with Jesus talking about you, and he said, this is the one. This is the one about whom it is written, behold, I send my messenger ahead of you, before your face, who will prepare your way before you. He had a big ministry. Truly I say to you, among those born of women, there's not risen anyone greater than John the Baptist. Yet the one who's least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than he. Why? Because John is still asking, is it you? Is it really you? And in the kingdom, we don't ask that question. We say, he is the Lord. He who has ears, let him hear. All right. This is really important because, see, we are the ministry of Elijah. We are the ministry of John the Baptist. We are the second coming of Christ. We're not announcing that he's coming and go in there. We're saying he's coming right here, and we're testifying. Because when you see him in here, then you'll see him come in all his glory. It's a wonderful, miraculous story and plan of God. What a great read, just alone. But this is what he's doing. And so we're the John the Baptist ministry. You see, we're shaking the heavens and the earth by the words that we're speaking, because he's speaking through us. And we won't be like John the Baptist with a faltering thing, you know. And why did John even have disciples anyway? He found the Lamb of God. Where did he go? You know? But we're this ministry. We're not to be conformed to this world. He says in Romans 12:1, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. John was transformed in his mind. He lived out there on the outskirts. He didn't want to be attached to this world, even though it wasn't the full amount that we're receiving. He still didn't recognize Christ completely. But see, he separated himself. And that's what God's bringing us into. You don't necessarily have to go throw your money away, but don't be attached to it. You know, and reading Louis L'Amour's story, he's a writer of the old America. But he said when the Great Depression hit, the millionaires were jumping out of the windows, killing themselves, because they couldn't live without money. He said, but most of us who didn't have money hardly even noticed the difference. But, so we don't want to be attached to it. So what is this great coming? You see how Jesus is setting this up. He's telling us, because what Jesus is looking for is, yeah, I'm going to go preach to these people, and they'll beat the hell out of me, I'm going to die, and oh my God, he'll be done with it. But what he's really looking for is when he comes back through his people and does this whole thing, this whole work through us, nationwide, and brings it into fulfillment. And that's what he's referring, that's what he's bringing up here. That's what he's thinking about when he's talking here. And if you're willing to accept it, John himself is Elijah, who is to come. It was prophesied in Malachi. He said, behold, well, we read it. So God said, I'm going to take Elijah and send him back to you, because God can do that. Verse 15, he who has ears, let him hear. But what shall I compare to this generation? It's like children sitting in a marketplace who are calling out to the other children and say, we played the flute for you and you did not dance. We sang a dirge and you didn't mourn. He's talking about the contrast, him and John. Jesus had the robe, and nice robe. And John was the contrast. And he's saying, we come at you from both sides and you're not getting it. For John came neither eating nor drinking, and they said he's got a demon. The Son of Man came eating and drinking, and they say, behold, a gluttonous man and drunkard, and a friend of tax collectors and sinners. Yet wisdom is vindicated by her deeds. They all find a reason to condemn what he's saying. I don't have to listen to him because ... And then he began to denounce the cities. I'm not going to read through all these, but woe to you, Chorazin, woe to you, Bethsaida, for if the miracles that had occurred in Tyre and Sidon, which occurred in you, they would have repented long ago in sackcloth and ashes. He's talking about the judgments that are coming because they didn't hear the word. And remember, someone greater than John the Baptist is here now. And the judgments, therefore, will be so much greater because they have no excuse. Verse 22, nevertheless, I say to you, it will be more tolerable for Tyre and Sidon in the day of judgment for you. This is just the way God likes to work things out. And you, Capernaum, will not be exalted to heaven, will you? You will descend to hell. For if the miracles had occurred in Sodom, which occurred in you, it would have remained to this day. Sodom and Gomorrah, they would have repented. And these guys were just indifferent. And as we're witnessing the miracle of God in our lives, in ourselves, transforming us, we're going to start producing these miracles. God, I got to feel that they'll be more receptive in this day. Verse 24, nevertheless, I say to you, it will be more tolerable for the land of Sodom in the day of judgment than for you. And then he shifts. At that time, Jesus said, I thank you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth, that you've hidden these things from the wise and intelligent and have revealed them to babes, infants. Yes, Father, for this was your well-pleasing in your sight. This awe of this is well-pleasing in his sight. It's not out of control. Don't worry. Well, we're becoming as children, you see, that we have to start at zero. And that's why God brought us to the wilderness. It wasn't to do anything else except one thing, to convince us that we can't do it by ourselves. We need God's help. Verse 27, all things have been handed over to me by my Father. But couldn't you just live to be standing there hearing him talk, saying these words for the first time? All things have been handed over to me by my Father. He knew who he was. And no one knows the Son except the Father, nor does anyone know the Father except the Son, and to anyone to whom the Son wills to reveal him. You can't condemn people that don't come to Christ. He has to reveal it to them. Come to me, all you who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. There's a revolution. There's a transformation. It's no longer my will, but the will of him that liveth in me. Verse 29, take my yoke upon you and learn from me. Be a citizen of my kingdom. Forsake the bondage of futility. And then be a citizen where you don't have to obey futility. Even Jesus walked on the water and rebuked the wind because he wasn't subject to the futility, rather it was subjected to him. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you'll find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy, and my burden is light. Damn. Let's look at Isaiah chapter 2. This is when he's talking about the reversal of gravity. The futility is like the gravity that holds us back. It holds us to the earth. We're earthbound. We're men of flesh. The flesh won't allow us to be free, to be who we were meant to be. We're subjected to this. But there's a day that God speaks about that he's reversing that force. And we're in that time now where you begin to feel the power of God lifting you up, where you couldn't get up before. You feel like you just had to labor and struggle through it because it's the futility God put on us. What else can you do? Like Johnny Cash says, I don't like it, but I guess things happen that way. But here we are. But now it's changing, you see. And it's not changing because we did something good or something right. It's changing because it's the time of God. And we allow it to change. We don't fight it. Remember Paul, the Saul, the great Pharisee who hungered after God so much. And then God knocked him down. He says, here I am. Why are you fighting it? You know, we don't want our old thinking to hold us back, say, oh, I want that, but I can't have that, or God can't do that. It's a different time. It's not to be Jesus said in John 7:17, if any man wills to do his will, God's will, then he will know the teaching. He'll know the truth. So we can't be bound by fear and say, well, I don't know, that's not what I'm used to. We reach out to God and get him by the throat and say, show me. Right? All right. Isaiah chapter 2, verse 1. The word which Isaiah the son of Amoz said concerning Amoz, saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem. Talking about the spiritual mountain of God, the city on the hill, the bride of Christ. Us. Now will come about in the last days that the mountain of the house of the Lord will be established as chief of the mountains. The Lord of Lords will be raised above the hills, and all the nations will flow to it. Remember, water flows downhill, not uphill. But it's a new day because he's the king. And all the nations will stream to it. And many peoples will come and say, come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob, that he may teach us concerning his ways, that we may walk in his paths. For the law will go forth from Zion, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. It's us. He will judge between the nations and will render decisions for many peoples. So there's still hope. Don't give up on America yet. They will hammer their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation will not lift up sword against nation. Never again will they learn war. So one last thing. I think this is the most important part, really. While we're in this time of God, Matthew 18, verse 1. At that time the disciples came to Jesus and said, who then, oh God, who then is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? And he called a child to himself and set him before them. And he said, truly I say to you, unless you are converted and become like a child, you will not enter the kingdom. He's telling his disciple this. Whoever then humbles himself as a child, he is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. And whoever receives one such a child in my name receives me. This is really big stuff. What if you were the president of the United States in normal times, and you sent somebody to a foreign power? It was very important that you get the message conveyed correctly. You would make sure that that person was, able to handle it. You would want them to be received just like you. And that's what he's talking about us. The small child, he says, when you receive one of these, you're receiving this from me. But whoever causes one of these little ones to stumble, who believes in me, it would be better for him that a heavy millstone were hung around his neck and he were drowned in the depths of the sea. Well, God's got a temper, doesn't he? Woe to the world because of stumbling blocks. But what we're getting into here is, remember, we're ushering in the coming of the Lord. We're ushering him into the world. We're the ones that are bearing his name, his authority, and this power to a world that's just drowning in futility. And so these people, they're going to come around eventually, and some sooner than others. But we're going to be faced with dealing with these people. And we're going to not be allowed to react. Like he said, when they hit you in the face, offer the other cheek. We're going to have to love these people and have faith for them and not condemn them. That's why we can't condemn ourselves. If you're condemning yourselves, you can damn well be sure that you're condemning others. When you recognize that they're part of God's plan, they're a product of God's own doing, his own will, set for such a time. Maybe they're the 38-year-old man that's been crippled all his life, sitting at the side of the road begging for money. And you're going to blame him for being a cripple. You're going to say, hey, buddy, today's a happy day for all of us. It's the day that you can walk again. But even better, the day that you get to meet the Lord. But see, we have to have this heart. It says, when Jesus looked on the crowd, he had compassion. And he began to create miracles, food and stuff, but he was moved with compassion. And if we're going to move as Christ in the earth and be his ambassadors, we're going to have that same heart. And we will. It's not something we're going to have to go and work at. But we're going to have to accept that we're going to think differently. Expect to think differently. I find myself not reacting the way I used to react to things and wonder, wow, how was I didn't even see that I was like that. How people tolerated certain things about me that now is almost embarrassing, but I realize it's all part of growth, But again, this is the key, and we get down to let's start here at verse 15. There, it begins in the house of God. We can't really love the people out there if we don't love our brother, right? If your brother sins, go and show him his fault in private. If he listens to you, you've won your brother. Set him free from futility. See, we shake off the condemnation thinking. When we look at someone stumbling and say, oh, good, that's not me. Or, I'm on top of that. I'm safe. When everyone around me is weak, then I can rest. It's the mentality of nations. They've got to put buffer zones all around the country because they're so afraid of their neighbors. Thank God, what an awful way to live. How miserable would a person be to have $1 billion and live in a slum? The first thing you'd do is you'd build a wall around your property, 10, 20 feet high, and then you build the most plush mansion you could possibly ever have. And you'd be afraid to go out the gate to the street outside because your neighbors would want to kill you. Or how about this? What if you had all that money and you lived in a slum and you started helping your neighbors and your brothers with whatever you have? Silver and gold have I none, but what I have I can give to you. That's how you create a safe environment. You take your enemies and make them friends, right? So that's we beat our spears into plowshares, he said, to pruning hooks. We start adopting a different way of thinking. But we have to have it first before we can expect other people to have it, right? But here we are. Let's see, verse 17. And if he refuses to listen to them, then tell the church. He's talking about government. But see, the church is a government. It's not this thing we see now, but a functioning organism like they operated with in the New Testament. That's what we'll have, a family spirit led by the Spirit of God. Verse 18, truly I say to you, whatever you bind on earth. See, we're building up into something here. We're coming together. Notice how he's talking about all of us now. We're working together. If there's a problem, we fix it. This is how we do it. We're coming together. He's building up to this body of Christ functioning. He says, whatever you bind on earth, in verse 18, truly I say to you. He's getting excited about this. That whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven. Whatever futility there is, whatever storms will tell it, peace, be still. And whatever, that's a big, talking about anything. And whatever you loose on earth will have been loosed in heaven. We speak in the heavenly realm. It shakes the heavens and the earth, and it manifests in all realms, even down into the earth. See, the heavens are shaken up as we come onto the scene, and then the earth starts saying, wait, what's going on here? They that have turned the world upside down have come here also. Oh my God, in the church we'll have our own newsreel and our own newspaper, and we'll talk about these things are happening. It's exciting. It's a revolution. Verse 19, again I say to you that if two of you agree on earth, my God, what does he want more than anything in this world? It's not to take this one person and transform him. What good would that do? He wants to take two, because that's what expresses Christ. When two are there, God's so much wanting to keep us from having the glory. It's been the downfall of Christianity, century after century, until this age of the kingdom. But he demands to be the number one. And when there's two of us together, you see, then he can be the one. For verse 19, again I say to you, if two of you agree on earth about anything that they may ask, what if Jesus had an equal that he could agree with? It shall be done for them by my Father who is in heaven. The guy that sent me as ambassador, he will do that. For where two or three have gathered together in my name, I am there in their midst. Right there. That's the whole plan and purpose of God. He can say, this creation, I put it through futility, came out with a oneness and a heart that I can interface with at will. This is my great crowning creation, my great crowning achievement. You read Ephesians chapter 3, 10 and 11, and it talks about that. See, that's his family. That's when God has brought all of this together. Might not look like it, but when he sees two or three together, he says, there's the kingdom of God. So Daniel had the vision of a mountain, when he saw a rock cut out of the mountain without hands. It just smashed the mountain to pieces, the futility. and then it took over the whole earth. All right, there we go. This is wonderful. We're coming into a great day. So let's let God have his way. Have a great week, and happy 4th of July. Bye-bye.